Yeah, so at the moment I'm an assistant professor, which is the first step in becoming a full professor. You then have the associate professor and then full professor. So I became an assistant professor in 2015, which was 5 years after I finished my PhD. And actually it was for me not that hard to get there. After my PhD I got a permanent position at the department I'm working now, and then at some point I was, yeah, okay. I became an assistant professor. Okay. So actually I want to become a full professor. So the next step in my career would be to become associate professor. So that means I have to fulfill some criteria, which are mainly depending on the number of grants you get and the number of publications you have. You have some qualification for teaching, and at some point then I will be, I have to go to a committee and they will then judge if I can be an associate professor or not. That's a difficult question. Yeah, when you want to set, I mean, if you have a position within in a department, then usually there's already a lab set up. So I would not know how to set it up from scratch. But if you want to have your own research group, I think the most important is if you get that you have to get funding for your project. And if you have funding, then you can hire your own PhD students and work on your own research. That's getting more and more challenging, but you have, in the Netherlands, you have national funds that you can apply for. And there are certain career grants, so these are individual grants. Those are the most prestigious grants, so if you get them, you can basically, these grants are meant for you to set up your own research group. And then of course there's also European grants you can apply for. And there are also some funds where you can get funding for your own research, like for if you want to do oncology research or brain research, there are specific funds for these. Now I supervise PhD students, so that's taking a large part of my time. I'm also spend time on writing grants, and in addition to being assistant professor, I'm also coordinating the preclinical section within the department, so the section within this department that is involved in preclinical experiments. So that's also basically some management tasks. And then I also have some time left to do my own research that is not being performed by PhD students. That's a good question. I think for me, it's personally, it's important to write down what I need to do. So I work a lot with a to-do list where I organize what I need to do, and also usually at the beginning of the week I will check what I need to do for that week, what's important, when there are specific deadlines, and I will try to arrange my agenda according to this. The thing I enjoy the most is the freedom in doing research on a topic that you like. So if I think something is of interest, I can really perform studies together with the PhD students to do that. I just always try to have a good connection with the PhD students and also with colleagues. I think I'm in a group where it's not really needed to be an authority person. Although at some point, especially in discussions with PhD students about studies that they want to do, at some point it's necessary to say, okay, this is not what we're going to do and this is how we are going to do it. But if you discuss this in a normal way, you don't have to really be very authoritative about this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I have a family, I have a boyfriend, I have two daughters. It's not hard, actually. I'm in lucky that my boyfriend is at home with the kids. So for me, that means that I can just easily work full time. So for me, it's not a problem to combine that at all. If you have to stop because of pregnancy, the most thing is that you leave work for 4 months. So I always try to, I had that twice, so I always try to keep up with work at least, to read my emails and know what's going on within the department. It's actually not hard. 4 months is not that long, and it's very easy to get back at work, and you easily can pick up where you left.
Okay.
Although you have some gap in your work, but usually that's taken over by colleagues, so it's not that big a deal. Yeah. I think it's because you can get quite a lot of emails, so I didn't want to spend 2 weeks reading emails when I came back from maternity leave. So I always kept my emails up to date, and if it was very important, although it's not necessary because you have this free time, but I always, if it was important, I would respond to the email and still do some corrections of manuscripts if it was really necessary. The money you earn, you mean?
Yes.
I'm a researcher. I really love doing research, and for me, it's less important what I earn with this. So for me, it's sufficient. Yes. Okay, the more is always better, but yeah. Yeah. So officially, it's 36, but that's as a researcher, it's always more. So it can get up to 50 hours, and if it's needed, I work in the weekends or in the evenings. That really depends on the week. If there are important deadlines, then you spend a little bit more time in the evening or in the weekends. Yeah, so if I hire a PhD, I always look at what what previous experience they had, so what they did during their masters, what kind of research they did, if they are already a bit independent in how they can do their research. So those are, for me, important criteria. If you show that you already, as a PhD student, as a master student, already did some practical work, that really helps. Because, I mean, even if as a PhD student that doesn't have the experience that fit exactly within the position, if you can show that you can learn fast, then that already helps. We don't look at the number of publications because it's not always, as a master student, you don't always get the opportunity to publish already. And yeah, those are the more important.
Are grades important?
Yeah, we look at the grades. Yeah, so if you have good grades and you also show that you have you're very skillful, experienced. So we look at them, but they're not the most important. If you have very good grades, means that you're theoretical. Yeah, but it depends on where the grades are. So if you have good grades on a theoretical part, that doesn't necessarily say something about your practical work. So, I mean, if you did an internship and you get a very good grade for that, of course, that we take into account. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we have a position, then always a lot of international students apply. So yeah, I think it's important to have a international group of researchers. Yes. Yeah, if you want to become a PhD student, I think it's important. Usually during your masters, you do some internships. I think those are are quite important because you can show that you have practical experience, and then it's important to show that you're motivated to do research, that you are eager to learn. That's important for a PhD student. And if you don't have the experience, that's not a problem. But if you can show that you are willing to learn and that you're able to master things quickly, then that's a good quality. Yeah. I think the biggest mistake of PhD students is that they spend a lot of time on experimental work, practical work, data analysis, and that the writing part of the manuscript It's usually mostly at the end of the PhD, and we try to prevent that, because that means in the end you have to do a lot of writing, and then also publishing the data costs time. So we consider it important that you start writing at an early stage of your PhD already, and don't save that until the last. That's a mistake we see often. Yeah. You have to be a bit curious, enthusiastic about doing research, especially if you want to do a PhD. That takes some time. You need to be devoted to your project, and often means that you have to come back in the weekend or in the evening. That happens. So I think, it's important that you show a dedication to your project and that you're very enthusiastic about your research. Yeah, so I think it's better to have 4 good quality papers, also because in your future career they also will look at the impact of your work, and the impact is always, not always, but it's often higher if you have a publication that contains all aspects that shows a complete overview of the study you did. Usually there are higher impact papers. Yeah. So I would choose the 4 good projects. Yeah. I think it's very important as a PhD student to start building an international network, and this is also important for personal grants in the future. I think it's important to have a good international network, and that starts by showing yourself at conferences. If you don't go to conferences and not present data, then nobody will see you. And that's very important. And conferences are the place to start. I think it's important to, if you see interesting work and something that maybe is very closely related to the work you do, then you can always talk to the researchers of the project. So if there are poster sessions, I will definitely go talk to the people that are with the poster and discuss their research, and you can also discuss what you're doing. I think you have to be a bit proactive if you want to build an international network. If you just stand there by your own poster, of course some people will come to you to talk, but you also have to be a bit proactive. Yeah, you have to talk to a lot of people. I mean, if you go to conferences in summer schools, that's already a start. And you have to be, just discuss with people your research. I think that's important. It has also a bit to do with personality. There are persons that are very easy, can easily make networks and collaborations, and some a bit less. But if you talk to people and discuss your research and maybe ask for collaborations, that's the way to build this international network. To choose a good research group, I think it's important to look at the publications of the group, what kind of work they do, if they also already have some existing collaborations. I think that's most important. You can also look at the professors that are within this research group, and you can look at their network and their publications. It starts, of course, with good quality research. And of course, you can have good ideas. You cannot always predict the outcome. But if you have a well set up study, a good experimental setup, well designed, and you can publish this in high impact journals, and that's what it starts with. So do good research. Publish in at least top 25 journals, work on your international network, apply for grants, and spend a lot of, not a lot, but spend good time on writing good grants, because that increases your chance of getting a grant. I think it's helpful for PhD students to have students to also get an opportunity of teaching. Whether it saves time, that depends also on the quality of the master students. and how much supervision they need. I would not recommend having too many students at a time. So I think if you have one student at a time, I think that's okay. Then you can supervise the student, spend time with the student, and you don't have to divide your attention among multiple students. And yeah, whether it saves time, that really depends also on how good the master student is or the bachelor student. Yeah, I think as a PhD student, I think it's important also to do the practical work and not let only master students do that. I think it's also, well, I'm now an assistant professor and I spend less time in the lab and more supervising PhD students. And I think as a researcher sometimes you miss that because you become a researcher to research, and it's also nice to do your own experiments. So if you, as a PhD student, only manage your students, yeah, I think I would personally prefer to do also the experiments and be involved in that. Do you mean really high, like nature and science, or like the top 25?
Let's say Q1.
Yeah, Q1. Yeah, I think it starts, of course, with a good idea and a well-designed study. And if you have research where you basically fill all the gaps within this study, I think you can. It's nice to do that, and then you have a high chance of having a high impact journal. The results you cannot always. I mean, you can have hypotheses, but they can also be wrong, of course. But even if you have then a well-designed study, and you looked at all aspects of that study, then you can have a high impact journal. But that also depends on, I think, more on the outcome also of your study. So if you have very nice results that are really new, innovative, in combination with a very well-designed experiment, then you can reach journals like Nature and Science or Lancet. Yeah, but then you also really have to have good results. I get ideas by reading literature, talking to other researchers, especially also outside your field. Also look at the results of previous studies, because usually when you do a study, this automatically generates new ideas for future studies. Reading articles is the things I would like to do more, and I have the least time for. What I do is I have in PubMed I have some I get email notifications for certain search terms, so that helps, and I don't have to spend a lot of time looking for it, but I just get an email with, hey, there's a new publication in this field, so then I can read it. So how many articles I read per week? I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, depending on the week and how busy I am with other things. How I remember, yeah, I just remember. Sometimes I don't even know, I don't remember exactly where they are, yeah, all the details, but at least I remember where I read things, so I can always look up the details. Yeah. I usually save an electronic version. What's very helpful is Mendeley, which is used as a bibliography for references, and you can also put your PDFs there and organize it, so that really helps. How to write an article. It's important if you write an article that you have a good overview of what you want to do with the study and what your results are. So what I usually do is present the results that you want to put in the article in a meeting, so you can discuss it. And if you have an idea of the aim of the study and what kind of results you want to show, it is easier to write your article around. So yeah, if you summarize your results and then starting writing your introduction material, method's always the easiest part, because you did that already. Then you write down your results, and in the end, yeah, you discuss your results. Yeah, well, if you have negative results, I mean that's what it is. It's yeah, if you did a whole study and you don't get anything out of this, is of course a disappointment. But then we always look at how we can improve for the next time, and, or how we can still use these results to publish it, or what can we add to get it publishable. Yeah, I'm not taken back by bad results. I mean, you have to continue then. This is what happened in every kind of research, and for every researcher, you will get some negative results, and yeah, that's something you have to learn how to deal with. If I had to do a new PhD,
Yes.
I would, as I already mentioned, also as something for PhDs to take into account, I would start writing earlier. Because I was the PhD student that had a lot of results, and in the end I needed to write everything down and didn't have sufficient time for that. So that's the most important. I think the experiments that I did during my PhD, and I did both preclinical and clinical studies, which combination was very nice. I think they were well set up experiments, and yeah, I would do them again the way I did them.
Okay. What would you not do at all?
I think you should be enthusiastic about your research, devoted to your research, and I think you should be kind of eager to learn. I learned that it's fantastic to do research. Be enthusiastic, work hard. That's the most important.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I already mentioned it. I think it's important that you are very enthusiastic, that you show dedication to your work. And in the end, I think doing research is fantastic because you can put a lot of creativity into this. You're relatively free within, of course, a certain project to do what you want to do. So I think that's very nice.